Hey everybody, this is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman back for the 169th Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition Zoom call. And we have a full boat. We're starting with about 29 people. It is 2 p.m. Eastern Pacific time in California. Bright, sunny day. This is the kind of
Hey,
day that reminds you why you moved to California. We have a
Sluggo, I'm gonna have to mute Sluggo. We screwed up. I'm gonna have to mute everybody and then unmute yourself and get going. And also, Vinny is here.
You want me to start again?
Yes, please. And you have to unmute yourself.
Hey, everybody, this is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman back with the 169th Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition Zoom call. We have about 30 people with us to start, and we are going to have a packed agenda, as always, for our seminar or colloquy or chautauqua, whatever you want to call us, or cabal. We're going to be just discussing in the first hour the politics of the situation in the U.S. and the world, starting with the great Vinny DeStefano, who's going to fill us in on the latest on Julian Assange. We're then going to have a new feature. We're going to have a 5-minute section for 10 people to speak a half a minute, 30 seconds each, on what you think is really important that's going on right now and what we should do about it, and if we should discuss it in our 2-hour call. We're then going to talk about the 14th Amendment and the evisceration by the Supreme Court. And then we're going to introduce, we are putting out a guide, the People's Guide to Grassroots Election Organizing 2024. This is our master document for people to get on the program with grassroots organizing and impact the 2004 election. And WENDI LEDERMAN has added a digest of documents at the end. That'll be our source material. It's important to document. It really embodies the approach that we want to take to preserving democracy in the 24 election. In the second hour, we're going to start with Diablo Canyon, the nuclear plant in California, where there are some major developments. And then we want to talk about a plan to fund Solarizing Los Angeles. We have a municipal utility in Los Angeles. We have God knows how many square miles of vacant rooftops that could be covered with solar. And we are working on the details of a plan to finance and get power purchase agreements to just cover Los Angeles with solar panels. There's just no reason not to. Between the parking lots and the big buildings and the warehouses and the homes, and solar, which is just plummeting in cost, there's no reason not to turn Los Angeles into the world's first Solartopian city. And this may sound a little wacky, but we've got all the elements there. I know that we could win a referendum in LA. It's a city where the DWP is. It requires 10% of the previous election for the number of signatures to get on the ballot. And then we have to have an organization and all that stuff. So we're going to talk about that in the second hour. And I'm glad to see Carl Grossman with us. Carl, that's going to be right up your alley. Carl actually was just given the Nobel Prize of Antioch College. And Carl, it's well deserved. Really good to see you being recognized after all these years. So let's start with Julian Assange and his local cohort, Vinny DeStefano. Vinny, can you give us the latest on what's happening with Julian? And by the way,
thank you, Harvey. I would love to do exactly that.
And one thing I want to mention, Vinny, we have not been talking about Leonard Peltier. And let's discuss Julian Assange and throw in something about Leonard Peltier, because nobody's been talking about him.
You know what? As long as you're mentioning Leonard Peltier, I'll also mention Mumia Abu-Jamal. These are 3 political prisoners that are cruelly being held in the carousel system that should have been released long, long, long ago. Each one in their own way represents the cruelty and the capriciousness of the U.S. justice system when it comes to people who dissent from the common narrative. And I would think all 3 of those would fall into that. Even the FBI agent that had been involved in the firefight that took place at Pine Ridge have come out in support of Leonard Peltier, and why the Biden administration does not release this individual is beyond me. And I would suggest that we all call our congressmen and senators to do that. And as long as I'm on that subject right there, I have more to tell you about Julian, but I'd like to start off by talking about House Resolution 934. This is a resolution called the Save Journalism Resolution. It is picking up more signatories every day, and it calls for the extradition of Julian Assange to be dropped, as it represents an existential threat to our freedom of the press. If Julian is convicted and the charges he now stands, it means an end to investigative journalism as we know it. It means that any newspaper anywhere on the planet could be targeted by any government that sees that individual publishing truthful information that causes no harm, but that they find inconvenient. And that is the case with Julian Assange. H.R. 934 has been authored by Paul Gosar. Rashida Tlaib just signed on to it today. Ilhan Omar has signed on to it. Jim McGovern has signed on to it. James Massey has signed on to it. And I mention those names because they are both left and right, Republican and Democrat. As a matter of fact, Paul Gosar, the author, is an uber MAGA supporter. I don't care the political leanings of the individuals that are calling for this, because each one of our elected officials swore an oath to defend the Constitution against enemies both foreign and domestic. And that's what this piece of legislation does. Now, what I would tell everybody that's listening is we have a postcard campaign, a relatively expensive postcard campaign we will send to individuals who are willing to gather together a group of people to take and fill out 432 for the 432 sitting congressmen. There are actually 435, but 2 of them are out. And you would be addressing a postcard that is in support of H.R. 934. And that there is the postcard right there. Thank you so very much, Wendy. Now, you'll notice in the front, what it shows are 4 specific reasons why the prosecution of Julian Assange should be dropped due to the malfeasance of the CIA intelligence services that they have inflicted upon. And we provide the postage, we provide the labels for each congressman. All you would have to do in the back is do as Wendy has done there, a message, your return address, and a signature, and pop it on off. We did one this weekend, along with a banner drop here in Los Angeles, in about 2.5 hours. We were able to whip out all 432 that we wanted. Now, they had a person who was directing them that was obsessive compulsive and a lunatic. That was me. And so it can be done relatively quickly. Most people take between 3 or 4 hours to do it, with a party of maybe 3 or 4 people. But we had a potluck. We had people out dropping banners, and the rest of us stayed at a facility and filled them out. And for those individuals that would like to take part in that, I will take and post my email and chat. You can contact me. The one thing I would ask is that printing the postcards, providing the postage, and producing the labels ain't cheap. So only ask for them if you're going to make your decision for Julian, and promise to do all of them. Now, I will be very brief because I know you got a lot on your schedule here. So I want to talk about what happened in London. In London, there was a hearing over 2 days. The Julian's defense was able to present on the first day, and then British barristers on behalf of the United States government presented on the second day. Julian's defense team presented an incredible presentation of why this extradition should be halted. A 150-page document condensed into 1 day's of a presentation to the 2-judge panel. Now, the good news is the 2-judge panel asked very probing questions. They asked whether Julian could be subjected to the death penalty. And the defense could not say, the prosecution could not say no to that. That would immediately eliminate the possibility of extradition from England, because it is not possible to extradite someone who may face the death penalty, the United States being one of the few countries on the planet that still practice this barbaric practice of the death penalty. The next day, when the prosecution presented their case, it was, as Chris Halverson, the current editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, said a 2-week-old smorgasbord of tired canards that they've presented before. They presented zero new evidence. They didn't address any of the issues at hand. And what likely will be the outcome of this trial is there can only really be 3 outcomes. One is they deny his appeal for extradition, that he goes to the European Court of Human Rights, which the United States and the British government don't really have any reason to abide by. But it takes us to the second option, and that would be they could say the appeal can go forward. That means another hearing where they get an opportunity to, in detail, present all the reasons why the extradition should be dropped. And the third is they could drop a bag over his head, if you'll excuse the expression, throw him in a plane and send him back here to the United States. Now, I think the only option that is really going to happen is what has happened all along, and that is delay. The longer he stays in prison, the more likelihood that he will die in prison, and that will solve the Biden administration and the Justice Department's problems very neatly in one fell swoop. And I must tell you that when I spoke to Stella, Julian is very ill. He was so ill, he could not attend the proceedings. He was so ill, quite frankly, he couldn't even watch them from his cell. He is so damn cold in that cell that he has to stuff books in the window to keep from freezing to death. And I emphasize that he is in really, really bad shape. And so I think the idea is to delay this as long as possible. We were supposed to get a response to this hearing on March the 4th. Well, that's come and gone by quite a ways. And so what I think the British courts will do is what they've done ably all along. They will just keep delaying and delaying. They will probably allow him to have his hearing, which means the Biden administration will get what it's want: more time for Julian to die and anything to prevent him from coming back to the United States, where he would stand trial in the Eastern District Court of Virginia. Now, at the risk of repeating myself, Deborah Hebrick and Margaret Kunstler, 2 of his defense teams, along with 2 reporters, visited Julian in the Ecuadorian embassy. While they were there, they had their phones and computers confiscated from them and all the contents copied. Now, I mentioned Deborah and Margaret because they are his lawyers. Therefore, the security service at the Ecuadorian embassy, at the behest of the CIA, abrogated their attorney-client privilege. That should throw the case automatically. So they are suing in Spanish court. And recently they had a case here in New York whether that trial could go forward. A judge, a very good judge, Judge Cottle, found in their behalf, and he will allow discovery of CIA documents to move forward. Now, this is epic. This seldom, if ever, happens. 9 times out of 10, if the CIA brings up the issue of national security, cases are summarily dismissed. In this case, Judge Cottle said it has to go forward. That means discovery can go forward in their case, and that would reveal all the documents of spying on Julian, which would be applicable once made public to his case in the Eastern District Court of Virginia. The last thing in the world the Biden administration needs, on top of Gaza and Ukraine and a failing economy, regardless of what he said in the State of the Union address, is to have this case revealing all the dirty laundry of the CIA and its attempts to kill and kidnap Julian Assange in court on public display during an election year. And so the news, as Charles Dickens said, is the best of times and the worst of times. It's good because the judges were willing to listen to what Julian's defendants had to say, and we believe that this case will move forward, and if justice prevails, he will be freed. The bad news is the longer they delay, the harder it is for Julian, who is in Belmarsh Prison, which is the British equivalent to Guantanamo Bay. He is held there. That is where they put kingpin drug dealers, worldwide terrorists, serial killers, the worst of the worst under the harshest conditions possible. And so to have a person who's been convicted of nothing, sitting in prison going on his 5th year now, is such a travesty of justice, it boggles the mind. Well, that was the Tobacco Auctioneer's presentation. Are there any questions?
It's a great report, Vinny. We have 52 people with us, and it's just terrifying and infuriating. Does anybody want to chime in? And Wendy, go ahead.
Thank you. As there's a train going by, sorry if that's picking up. I'm sorry if you had touched on this as multitasking, but one thing I know you mentioned the court of human
The Court of Human Rights,
go
yes.
higher. But one thing that I did learn,
Wendy, kill your video.
yeah,
Wendy.
and
Wendy, kill your video. There you go.
got it. Sorry, video killed the
Okay.
Wendy star. Oh, it came back. Weird. Okay, sorry. It won't let me turn it off. That's so weird. Okay, there we go.
There you are. There you are. Go ahead.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Spooky problems. Okay. So yeah, I learned while watching the amazing live stream that Vinny did with Stella that I highly recommend you guys going to Assange Defense or Stella Assange's YouTube, subscribing and following along there and watching some of this amazing footage and coverage that they did. It's fantastic. There's a point that apparently the British court, the British legal system, like their treaties on extradition with the US forbids extradition in political cases. It's proven that they've tried to kill him. It's on espionage, which is an inherently a political case. So now with all the people that showed up that, you know, especially Vinny and Stella and everybody have been galvanizing, the world is watching, media is giving it somewhat unbiased attention, more objective. And so this court is under pressure now to not break their own treaty. So I just wanted to bring that up. Oh, thank you.
I can't imagine in this kind of election year that Biden wants Assange backing up. I mean, it was just suicide. It's political suicide. But you know, what can I tell you? Thank you for that.
Logic dictate. By the way, just changed my background, and I will move out of the way here. You can see this is the march we made from the courthouse to 10 Downing Street, where speakers were there. And there is Stella next to me. It's me in the Amnesty International hat, Craig Murray, John Shipton, Gabriel Shipton, Kristen Halfison. And there, way off to the right, is Rebecca Vincent from the great Reporters Without Borders. And of course, on the far right here is David Dominique. And then there are as the BBC said, there were dozens of people that were part of our rally. And I don't know, there are dozens. There just happened to be 100 dozens because there were more than 1,000 people on both days there. They were actively involved. Even the second day in drenching rain, 1,000 people were still there as well.
Well, you keep comparing Belmarsh to Guantanamo, and I'll take Guantanamo any day. At least it's sundown there. But this is really a killer report. Thank you so much, Vinny, and thanks for your work on that.
Well, thank you, Harvey. And for a man who has no leg to
No, I have one, my right leg. I think I see Elvis in that group there. There he is, right there. There's Elvis. Okay, so we want to do something new. We're going to have anybody wants to chime in with 30 seconds, and Nancy Naparko is going to give you the hook here, just to say what they would want to speak about. And we have Cynthia Papermaster, who has remarkably overcome her inherent shyness. Give us 30 seconds if you would. Anybody else want to do that? Raise your hand. And then we're going to go to the State of the Union, the 14th Amendment, and then we're going to dig deep into the guide we're producing for grassroots organizing in 24. I see Lynn Feinerman is second. Go ahead, Cynthia, and give us 30 seconds, please.
Okay. Thanks, Vinny, for that report. I just wanted to say, I just returned from Washington, D.C., and as several people have noticed, I sat in front of Nancy Pelosi's office. Her staff shut the door when about 30 of us showed up to ask her to call for a ceasefire in Gaza and stop funding lethal weapons for killing people. And so two of us were arrested. That was no big deal. What I really wanted to talk about with the rest of my 30 seconds is that I'm launching a tax refusal project. And oh, my time's up. Okay.
All right, your tax refusal project, put it in the link in the chat.
Sure. That was 30. Okay.
Thank you for that, Cynthia. Lynn Feinerman. And thank you, Nancy, for the creative hook there. Lynn Feinerman, go ahead. Then Robin Harper. Lynn,
Okay.
you're on mute.
Yeah, I just heard a Republican operative talking about the poll watchers that they're going to have during the election. And some of these people have bragged that they're armed. I think we need to get back into that. And I think we need to try to do something about organizing something against it. Thank you.
Thank you. You're 100% right. Very good point. Robin Harper and then Mike Hirsch. Let's get you unmuted here, both you guys.
The basic problem with human species is you got these narcissist and sociopath personalities, you know, that want to dominate everybody, and it causes all kind of trouble. And then you got the masses of the conformist people that go along with whatever everyone else is doing, no matter how stupid it is. And then you got your religion, various kinds, and they're willing to, you know, kill everybody of the other religions. Anyway, that's my thing.
Thank you. Right on time. Thank you very much. For those of you who don't know, by the way, Nancy has chosen Beethoven's Fifth Symphony for the hook here. Mike Hirsch and then Tatanka Bricka. You unmuted? Mike?
Sorry about that. Somebody called me just as I was about to start talking. Yeah, I hope we get a chance to discuss the credible Republican response to the State of the Union address. I mean, I'm speechless.
Well, I saw the everybody should look at Scarlett Johansson's parody of that on Saturday Night Live. It was spectacular. I mean, what do you think, Mike? Did you see it? Anybody who didn't see, well, anybody who wants to see the dissection of the that what Mike has brilliantly mentioned here, go to Saturday Night Live for their cold open with Scarlett Johansson. She was really good. Thank you for that, Mike. It was fabulous.
I saw it, and I heard it.
Yeah, it was fabulous, fabulous. Okay, we have Tatanka Bricka. Do you want to, before we give into his time, give great kudos to Tatanka, who is now the chair, thank God, of the KPFK board, Pacifica, and he ran yesterday the first meeting I've ever attended in the Pacifica Radio Network that was fully civil, actually civil, and ended on time. Two miracles in Pacifica. So, Tatanka, I know you're walking on water right now. We're glad to hear from you. Take your 30 seconds, please.
Thank you, Harvey. I'm responding to Lynn's suggestion. I totally agree. And after Ray McClendon, when I asked him, said no, he has no assurance the votes will be counted in Georgia. I asked Danny Sheehan what he would do. He said we should launch a campaign to pressure the Justice Department. I will have a further discussion with him specifics, but they can do something about it if they get pressured.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And we've been talking about that since Ohio 2004 and Florida 2000, both of which were turned by intimidation at the polls. So yes, absolutely. We'll incorporate that. We're going to discuss the digest that Wendy has been putting together. So let's incorporate that. Nancy Naparko, did you have 30 seconds you wanted? No? Does anybody want 30 seconds to vent and to add things to the agenda? Paul Newman, go for it, Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when what was it, Congresswoman Britt, whatever.
Yeah.
When she was commenting, I had this fantasy of like Gone with the Wind and Clark Gable saying, "Frankly, dear, I don't give a damn." You know, at the end. Right. I almost made a video of it and posted on TikTok, but I don't have the right software.
You don't need to. It went everywhere. I mean, I was expecting Hattie McDaniel to walk in the bath with a bunch of pancakes for her. I couldn't watch the whole thing, by the way. I mean, I just couldn't watch it. But everybody make sure that you watch the Saturday Night Live opening. There you go. Thank you, Paul. All right, that was fun. That was good. I like that. We should do that every week. 30 seconds of fame. We have 52 people with us. We want to talk now about the State of the Union. I thought that Biden showed that he actually had a pulse, and that it was Middle East issues aside, it was a pretty good speech. Does anybody want to comment on that? I think actually it was a major turning point because he was able to prove that maybe this age issue isn't so bad. And what we're seeing now with Trump is he's seriously flying into the land of dementia. I mean, you watch the news on Saturday Night Live, which I do. And by the way, I've read a number of books on nonviolence, and the consensus is that the number one weapon that the public has against dictatorship is ridicule. And nobody does it better than Saturday Night Live or Colbert. Those guys really have ridicule down to an art. But does anybody else want to comment on the State of the Union? And then we'll talk about the 14th Amendment. Okay, the 14th Amendment, the Supreme Court basically had, oh, Nancy, go ahead. Nancy DeParco. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, I thought Biden was great. I agree with you. The Middle East Gaza war was the only weak point. But one thing that always bothers me is he really does have a speech impediment. And he amazingly threw out all those numbers. And if people considered his speech impediment that he's overcome, he's a most excellent speaker. And so people call those flaws, but it's really his speech impediment. And he does it great.
Very good. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Wendy, a couple seconds here. Wendy, go ahead. Wendy Lederman. Oh, you're having technical trouble. There you are. Go ahead. You're muted. Go ahead. You're muted. There you go.
Thank you. Sorry, I was preparing, getting ready. Thank you. So yeah, I just wanted to add, and I'm sorry, I'm preparing for our big release of this awesome document that we're putting together. But I did just want to kind of have a voice for a huge cross section. I don't know if everybody heard about the 100,000 uncommitted votes in Michigan, and there was a big blockade against to kind of to get Biden's attention, to block the road after the State of the Union. A lot of people feel that airdropping, that's going to take 2 months without a ceasefire. Like, there's nobody going to be anybody left in Gaza to get the food to in 2 months once the port's built, and it's actually right on top of the gas shale that's there. So a lot of people are and when I say a lot of people, I mean like a lot of people, like a lot of people are a little disappointed that there's thousands of aid trucks with food sitting at the border, but Israel's blocking it, and we could just escort that aid right in and get it to people in a day, and they would stop like dropping dead from famine. So it's a deep, there's a lot of scar tissue that's growing, and that I just wanted to speak for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The election is shaping up. As best I can tell, you've got Trump, you've got Biden, Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy's press secretary is a very old friend of mine, and she told me that they expect to be on all 50 ballots. And that is a real wild card. Nobody knows how that's going to play out. Jill Stein is also running. She's going to be on a few state ballots. The big one is this this moderate Republican group that might run a moderate Republican. So there are a couple
No
left.
labels?
No labels, yes. And if they do that, they'll have a ton of money. And this is going to be, and then everybody needs to read this Thom Hartmann. Thom Hartmann is a great, and he has put out a piece explaining how the Republicans really could steal the election with a constitutional means. It's really disturbing, because they, had Mike Pence gone along in 2020, we might have, the human. I do not believe the human race will survive a second Trump term. I just don't. It's game over for the human race. And this is it. Thom Hartmann's piece. Thank you, Steve. It's extremely detailed, very interesting. Tom really knows what he's talking about here. And he has laid out a way that using constitutional manipulation, the Republicans can steal the election. So everybody should take a look at that. Very, very serious. The 14th Amendment, there was the case on the 14th Amendment and whether Trump can be considered an insurrectionist and what that means is also very disturbing. Basically, the court said that the amendment is meaningless, and they referred it back to Congress. And, if you really look at the legalities, as Thom Hartmann and other people have done, the court is just negating the Constitution arbitrarily. It's really, really dangerous and really messed up. So I had an expert, but the expert couldn't make it today. Maybe next week we'll do it and go into deeper detail. But part of our guide, the People's Guide to Election Protection, is going to have to do with the manipulations that the Republicans could do in the fall to just negate the popular vote. And with Mike Johnson as looked to me like while he was sitting there, he kept reminding me of Alfred E. Newman from Mad Magazine. But to have a guy like that, Speaker of the House, with immense power to manipulate an election that is really, really dangerous. So it's something we all need to take care of and really look closely at seeing that. Okay, we got 53. Does anybody else want to jump in on that before we go to our upcoming publication of the People's Guide? We have Wendy as the editor of the resource section, and we went through the basic text, I think a week or two ago, and now Wendy is in charge of pulling together all the documents and links and video presentations that we may want to have going forward to 2024. So Wendy, take it away. Steve, if you want to show the document. This is our, membership. Wendy will be adding to things. This is not a final. We're fluid. We'll be adding things as we go forward towards the 2024 election, but this is a basic grassroots guide of how we can do grassroots organizing in 24. So go ahead, Wendy.
All right, thank you. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is the main document that's going to go with the awesome thing that Harvey's putting together. And these are the reference materials, educational tools, trainings, and guides, basically just pulling everything together that Harvey's had me do over the last couple of years. Of like, we have some really cool resources and tools that that people can use for learning how to organize and improving their skills. So what I did, I was going to show this to you at the end, but I kind of went on a side project with this to kind of thank Harvey for being awesome. I decided to do a little something extra, and I'm going to explain it to you first because I think it'll save some questions for the rest of the document here. So just to show you, this first part here is just the resource tools and all the documents you've seen me show before, like the GOTV groups, the one that's listed by state and national, citizens initiatives, those ones that you guys are familiar with, where it's just all the different how to get organized. All right. And so this is groups devoted to preserving your rights, creating a civically engaged population, and protecting democracy. There's digital platforms and services to maximize outreach and organizing and fundraising. And I think, sorry, because it's there's something in my screen here blocking it. So that's what this is here. That's still under construction. And sorry, my screen always automatically does that. So tools and guides. So there's lists of groups to engage. You can explore digital platforms, find funding. So what I did is I went through the GOTV groups and the other lists that I've made, and then compiled them and started sorting handfuls of them, not the 700 that are there, but some good ones that stood out to me that are organized under category. So these are support campaigns, different groups that can help with grassroots organizing and helping smaller local campaigns. Sorry for my screen, there's a little extra there. So that's what that looks like. And all the different categories are outreach through art and culture. And then there's another one, it's tech tools, voter access and information, ensure your civil liberties, policy research, networking, the movement building, environmental, women's issues, young voters, BIPOC unions. So all these different things are going to have lists that are going to be, I'm going to have one list that has, just like this, all the links to the other lists that are specialized in what you might be doing and looking for more support. So I apologize for the sidebar thing being here. So that's what these are. These are our resource tools, and this will encapsulate things that people that we haven't had on our show, but we support and we want to connect with and just want to uplift, and tools for the people that we are connected with. So these are the National Justice Roundtable, and just again, a People's Guide to Grassroots Organizing, helpful guides for gathering petitions. So these are all creations from GREEP that are on our site that are ours, that are tangible, substantial things to help you. And then there's voter information. And anything that's in purple hasn't been posted yet, and it will be soon. But we'll have a page just for voter information and all these different links that can just give you voter information. And launching your own campaign, making sure you have secure elections, and oversight for later, and then Brennan Center. So anything that works with anything voter related. These are affiliate members, and then these are the people we work with, our voter awareness. So this is what our affiliates are doing. So that's you guys. And if you want me to put your contact on here, if you see your name on here and you want your contact on here, please let me know. I'm sorry I didn't get to reach out to everybody and ask, but I didn't put them on because not everybody wants to have their contact given out. So Center for Common Ground, these are our affiliates, voter awareness and engagement. Center for Common Ground. These are all their resources. This is an amazing database that I really like. I can't overstate or how great this is that Andrea has put together with all different data statistics about the progress that they've made really in the demographics. Just so check that out, the listing of comprehensive voter data on Center for Common Ground's website and it's published on our site already. The democracy centers, this is what Ray's doing, Community United for Justice. That's also kind of a work in progress. This is a recent video that Andrea and Ray had done that was the 2-hour presentation for the upcoming year's work. And again, these are just affiliates and the work they do. We've had Christian Union, it's on Our Revolution. We've Vote Well. This is actually someone else I work with that I want to get on soon, but he has this amazing site for all kinds of voter integrity, but also becoming a poll worker and how to actually be there to observe elections and the actual like sausage making, basically, as John Brakey might call it, but the pre-end of the election, the citizen involvement. We've had Evangelicals for Democracy, Arthur Waskow, and then these are people that we work with that are threats to voting rights. There's Greg Palast and his work, and Stephen Rosenfeld, and one of the articles that Bob Fatigas and Harvey did. Election Protection, Audit Engine, and Audit USA. We have Scrutineers, Smart Elections, Fair Election Center. So that's Lulu Freestat and Cynthia Pinchon, and of course John Brakey and Ray Lutz. America Council's Dan Wolf, Jan Bandor in Michigan, that's her group. My friend Jamie Friend is on the Progressive Caucus, is something I work with in Florida. The Citizens Audit Broward, sorry. Independent Media, Free Speech, Pacific Network, Assange Defense, Donziger, Flashpoints with Dennis Bernstein, Women's Rising Radio, there's a typo there, Carl Grossman. We also have other networks by Stan Porkus. He has an amazing little website that just has all the, it's like kind of like a Craigslist almost for activists. It's just listings of all these amazing activists and their work. So that's cool. Other networks, Environmental and Social Justice, Romero Institute with Danny Sheehan and Sarah Nelson, Dolores Huerta Foundation. I have to take the women's organization. I'm not sure if that works there, but Green Amendments, Mothers for Peace, Beyond Nuclear. We have Camilla Reese's 5G and the radiation work she does, Jerry Ashton's medical debt, Peace Action, Code Pink, Living Earth Movement. And then here we have learn from hands-on experience and training and volunteer opportunities through our affiliates. So this is where people, like, if they don't know where to start and they just don't know how to get into activism, well, here's some basic things. Like, would you maybe want a phone bank? Would you want to do postcards and send text and do advocacy? There's an intern program for students all through Center for Common Ground here with Andrea Miller. PDA does some cool stuff. They have the congressional liaison. You can learn how to bird dog and talk to your representatives, or you could do phone banking with them. Dolores Huerta out in California, they do all kinds of really cool grassroots stuff. Bring It Home Florida. My friend Anna, she was running late with a doctor's appointment. She's going to be on with us very soon. I can't wait for you guys to meet her with her canvassing work in Florida with Bring It Home Florida. We have Protect the Vote. You could go do poll tapes with Emily Levy from Scrutineers. We can do, again, this is the Vote Well Net, where there's all kinds of ways to find out how to get involved in your community. Code Pink, they're amazing. They have local organizing guides and toolkits, so ways for you to organize your community for peace. You can call on Congress. They have call parties and where you call your representatives. Assange Defense, there's so many creative ways through that Vinny does. It's fun and amazing, like, to be able to get out there and do banner drops and be a part of the postcard campaigns. And there's just such a sense of solidarity with the getting real kind of direct action that that defense does. It's great.
Wendy, maybe with the Assange slot there, you could add some sources for Peltier.
Okay, cool. I can do that. If anybody has anything. Yeah, if Tasaka wants to send me your. That's okay, thank you. And sorry, I can't see you while I'm doing this, but this is pretty much wrapped up. But yeah, anybody who has some good resources, and anyone, please, you guys, I'll just show you this. This is further reading from our archives, and then Harvey keeps wanting me to cut this down, but I really think that if people actually understood how much amazing work Harvey has done, maybe some of you do, but I don't know, this guy's pretty amazing. This is just a small little bit of some of the books he's done, some of the articles he has, just to give you a sense of who is guiding our call and what kind of tone and what kind of feel we have and what our mission and our goal is. And this is who we are as a family. And we're so excited to have you guys with us on this journey. And I'm super glad to be a part of it. And so if anybody in our group, all you regulars that we love so much, if you're working on something, like I know you guys, I know like Nancy and Paul, you guys have that your club out in SoCal over there. Like I know Julie Weiner, I don't think she's with us, but I know she does work in New York around making sure that there's paper ballots. So any little thing that you guys have, like you see what the format here is generally, like you don't to go overboard killing yourself. Just give me a even just the name of a group with a link, and I can go into the about page and clip something out unless you have something for yourself you want to write. So I'll put my email in the chat, and yeah, love you guys. Thank you Harvey for having me put this together, and I'm gonna stop sharing.
Can you show the very beautiful work there? And again, this thing is not set in stone. Wendy is the editor, and we're going to, going forward, continue to add material. So, but this hopefully is pretty comprehensive. There is an introductory part that many of you have seen from previous calls. And that's it. Paul, Mike Hirsch and Tatanka.
Yeah, I just want to say huge thanks to Wendy, also to Steve Caruso, who's been moving a lot of this on and off of the website. So this is going to be a lot like the U.S. Constitution, a living document. And it's also in service to the Constitution and our constitutional republic. Wendy, you've done an absolutely amazing job. And everybody in the chat who's been thanking Wendy, I appreciate you giving her that encouragement. She's been working on this dedicatedly for quite a long time. And Wendy's birthday is Constitution Day, so that's very appropriate. Very appropriate.
There you go.
And I'd also like to put in a plug. If you want to show some real appreciation, Wendy would do this for free if she had to, but she has bills like the rest of us. So if people could please use the link in the chat to pitch in $5, $10, $50, whatever you can afford to help us keep Zooming. And then also, this is just an indication of all the hard work that we're doing behind the scenes. It's not just a couple hours a week on the Zoom, but we also have to organize between Zooms. And then all this excellent work, this great resource that Wendy has led the way in pulling together. And so if you're tight on cash and you're feeling that burden and you can't really, your Snickers bar keeps getting smaller, the same price as the president mentioned, and all the other things that are facing you, we understand. But if you can scrape together money, $5, $10, whatever you can afford, we'd really appreciate it. It would mean so much. It would definitely take some of the pressure off of us. So please do that.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. And Tatanka, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Tatanka Bricka, we still have 50 people with us.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Leonard Peltier, right? So
yeah,
you took care of that. Okay. The other two things I'm waiting to hear back since I talked to you, Wendy, is I got in touch, but only by email, not by phone, to the national director of Sunrise. And so I'm waiting to hear back on if they want to be involved in this and who to contact. The other thing is, I was just thinking the Midas Touch Network. So I contacted or I emailed Ben Mycelis to see if this is just if people have news and want to get it out. They just have so many brilliant constitutional attorneys there every day pumping out information, and they have a podcast that's over 2 million people now. So just any election protection news that needs to get out to people, it's another media resource. So I'll let you know about that when it comes back.
Thank you. Tatanka, much appreciated. Of course, we're hooked up on this with the Romero Institute. Camilla Reese has been a godmother of this project. And Camilla, you're with us? Do you want to chime in your 2 cents worth here? See if we can get you unmuted. There we are. No. There.
There we go. Yeah, hi, Harvey. I'm driving, but I'm available. I can talk. I'm going to pull over. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good.
What did you want me to talk about?
You've been a major force behind doing this. And, we have 2 pieces to this. The first is the essay, 9-part essay on election protection. And then what Wendy has done here to provide us the links and resources and connections. So we just want to thank you for your role in making this happen. And, anything you want to say about it. Please do.
Well, I think it's a great resource. One thing that I suggested or plan to suggest to Wendy is there are a lot of groups out there that I think should be on this list that are advocating for like a transpartisan approach, bringing people together. And I'll give like Millennial Action Network and other groups that so I think we can all contribute further to this list. And I hope everyone really takes a hard look, scrutinizes it carefully, and sees what from their area might be added. But it's great effort.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could respond to that.
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I do want to respond to that before people go out of their way, or like just before we do that. Remember that I do have the GOTV groups that are already compiled of 700 groups that are listed by state of the different types of groups. And so I'm going through now, like if you have specific things that you think are for a specific that's within it, but just remember, like when Camilla says to go through this document, just remember that we have multiple documents for work that's already research that's already been done and is already on the site. But if you do have specific things that we should really know about, and even people that we should have on or whatnot, like definitely like let us know. But just be mindful that we do have like a quite a large catalog already that if you want to explore, like that's what it's there for, really. So thank you. And I can put those links because they're already.
We certainly hope that people use this. It wasn't done as an academic exercise. It's meant to be available. And I think, are we able to send it as a PDF? Wendy, how can we distribute this thing?
Sorry, and I'm trying to keep up with everyone messaging me in the chat, so I will get to everybody. So forgive me.
Yeah,
I sent this morning. I sent it to Stephen with what I have and what still needs to go up and be posted onto the site, the docs that are inlaid. So I'm waiting back to see how it's posted. Like I can create a separate PDF, but the version I have is still waiting for the right links that connect to the site. Once I have those, I could put those in and convert it to a PDF, or if Steve doesn't mind, once the links go up, just send it back to me and I'll keep working on it, I guess. But that's more the tech side. But however you want to do it, Harvey.
Well, we want to have it so that it can be easily distributed. So if it's in a PDF form, we can just email it to anybody. And maybe that's the best way to go with it. Steve, what do you think, Steve?
Yeah, well, I can put it up on the website, no problem. I haven't seen Wendy's email from this morning. I've been checking it pretty regularly. So I've been having problems sending mail out and not getting received as well. We'll see what happens here. As soon as I get it, I'll slap it up there and you'll see a preview of the doc, and you'll also see a download thing right there on the website. So that should be no problem.
All right, so listen, go ahead.
I'll put it in the chat. It's okay. Thank you.
So once it's nailed and available by PDF, everybody here is free to send it to everybody. I mean, that's the point. We want this to distribute. We're not charging people money for it. We just want the information out there, and the videos are great, and the links and the resources. Hopefully, it's all right there. That's the point. Tatanka and then Camilla.
Just one idea I had. I was appreciative of what you said earlier in the show about the effectiveness of fighting dictatorship with ridicule. We all have really good ideas about things that are needed. And maybe if we said after every single one, and grassroots relational community organizing, and relational organizing, and grassroots protect democracy organizing, just because that's what we need. I mean, if we can turn out people in this, we win. And if we can do things, whatever strategy it takes, pressuring the Justice Department to make sure that the efforts that the GOP is doing to actually steal the election and not have votes counted, to combat that. So all that gets down to the grassroots organizing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tatanka. Camilla and then Lynn.
Yeah, so one thing I thought would be helpful, I mean, beyond sending it around as a PDF, Harvey, I think it would be great for you to do a 2-minute, 3-minute video that could circulate online that can introduce this document and these resources, because that's how it'll travel really fast.
Well, Steve, maybe you and I can do that. It's a good idea. Thank you. And Wendy should do one too, and you should do one. I mean, we're listing the co-authors at the beginning, as you, John Steiner, Andrea, Ray, and me. And so there's 5 co-authors listed in all the organizations. And but we're not charging for this thing, obviously. We're just going to send it around. And as I say, it's a fluid document. So yes, that's a great idea. You should do a video. I mean, everybody should do videos about this thing and about organizing in 24. I mean, people keep telling me that Trump's going to win. I don't believe it. But the only way to make it not happen is to get organized, obviously. So, okay.
It would be great to send it to the media also, to, send it to the media. Maybe you get a reference to it in some, articles that are done, or, just would be smart to get it out to the media.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, very good. Anybody else want to chime in here? We got Dave Saltman has joined us, and 48 people with us. We're 5 minutes shy of the top of the hour, and I do want to jump in and start to talk about the plan to solarize Los Angeles. So before we jump into the weeds here, Lynn Feinerman and then Mike Hirsch.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to emphasize again a concern that I have. I do believe that whole charade with Trump and Dominion voting, where it sued Trump and et cetera, was actually meant to kind of put to bed or put to rest concerns about the voting. Dominion voting is run by Dominionists. They are evangelicals. You may think it's funny, but it's true. That's the scariest thing about it. And so how sure can we, and how can we be sure that these voting machines aren't actually rigged? And it's like, in a way, I feel like they just, mocked us with that, with Trump. And so it would be Smith. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, it's a important piece that you're doing. I mean, that's a big piece of it. So we're going to have to be on top of that as we move forward. Not only voting machines, but intimidation at the polls, right-wing election supervisors who really want to steal things. I mean, it's all there. Mike Hirsch and Paul Newman.
I want to extend our condolences to Ray McClendon, who recently suffered his younger brother passing away unexpectedly. And our thoughts and prayers go out to Ray. He's been an absolutely tremendous leader for voting rights and civil rights, and he's been very generous with his time and expertise. And he and Andrea, among others, led the way for the Georgia victories. But right now, he's a grieving brother. And so I just hope we can all hold him in our thoughts at this time.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Mike. Much appreciated.
And I hate to do this, but I also like to pivot to Sluggo, if you'd like to say a few words about the State of the Union, and then we can talk about how we can lead the way with Solarizing Los Angeles, which are 2 very exciting
I will do
topics.
That. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Let's talk with somebody who actually has helped solarize at least a part of Los Angeles. Paul Newman has solar panels on his rooftop. And then I'm going to get into the detail of this plan, and then we'll talk about Diablo Canyon as well.
Okay, but you were talking about the election and integrity. What I noticed about what COVID did was there was a lot of vote by mail, and usually those ballots are counted by hand, if I'm not mistaken. And they say that hand counting ballots is the gold standard in Europe. They don't use machines in Europe. And of course, I got this information from Tom Hartman, and they talked about the differences, and also Greg Pallas, that they do it by hand. And that's going back to what you were talking about originally. And, before, the previous person, but my condolences also, but with Ray McClendon's brother. But in the meantime, go ahead.
What's been added, a lot of this started in 2004 in Ohio, where they used corrupt machines to steal the election for Bush. And that, the stealing Ohio in 2004 was definitive. That was the deciding state in the Electoral College. And if Kerry had been the rightful winner and been awarded the state, John Kerry would have defeated George W. Bush. So the big thing that we added, in addition to hand counting paper ballots, is digital scanning. And if the paper ballots come in and they're all digitally scanned, then you have a backup and you can get a result very quickly. And then if there's a dispute, you've got the paper ballots as the backup. So that has been, hand counted paper ballots, yes. A vote by mail, yes. But also, digital scanning, so that we have a safety valve here. And that really comes from John Brakey, and it makes a ton of sense.
Well, the other thing go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that if you notice, all the red states are against mail-in ballots all of a sudden, because I think, because there were mail-in ballots, people, they had to count those ballots by hand. And as you say, it was also a backup. So
right. So if those votes can be digitally scanned, then we have a pretty reliable vote count. Right. Hand marked, hand counted paper ballots, which are digitally scanned. That's what we really want. Wendy?
Thank you. I do want to speak a little bit to what Ray Letts does. That John Brakey is really big on the ballot scans, which exactly we're all for that. And I don't think anyone here is against hand counting. But I personally, and I used to be on that same full extreme. But keep in mind that counts and because you have hand marked paper ballots, and then you have digital voting machines, and then separately from that's electronic, you have the digital scans of either the paper ballots or whatever somebody touched on a screen, which is where the problem is. The most amount of problems is the touch screens. You want a paper ballot that is a tangible thing that you can hold. But then you have these scans that can be put through machines by independent auditors like Ray Letts that will work with anyone looking to verify. It doesn't matter who they're affiliated or what they're doing. He just wants to find out what the actual counts are. And he said something to me a couple of years ago, and this is why I would stay working with him. One of the things that really got me is that he's like, people make mistakes randomly, but machines, you can always find whatever reason is causing the glitch. You can troubleshoot. So if things are working improperly, you can find them more. So having a system where you can take thousands and thousands and thousands, and if you can really think about, the amount of mistakes that can happen just from the human mind and the human eye making a mistake, or even just more malicious things
Please catch the rest of the show at grassrootsep.org, and please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Grassroots Election Protection Coalition. Thanks.